Beneath a collapsing city, secrets were sealed in darkness, and history was meant to end here, unheard and unseen.
April 1945, when the city was encircled and the war's end pressed downward into the bunker like a closing fist. Interesting. The maps lied now, showing armies that no longer existed and roads already lost. The atmosphere of ritual obedience, where orders were still issued despite the absence of means to carry them out. Normal routines were enforced underground as a defense against panic. He notes that discipline became a fragile shield against the certainty of defeat.
Obsession with security, even as the perimeter collapsed beyond the bunker walls. Secrecy became a final weapon.
In the chaos, information arrived in fragments, outdated before it was even read. It felt as though time itself was breaking apart underground.
Berlin called out to a shrinking world that could no longer answer. Silence became the most honest reply.
How each day marked a narrowing future. Endings rarely announced themselves clearly.
Even underground, the war's violence followed them. Care was given without illusions of recovery.
We attempted to maintain normality through routine. Hunger and fear shared the same table.
Messengers carried not just paper, but the weight of inevitable news. Courage was measured in steps taken forward.
Plans continued despite the darkness. Belief outlasted reason.
The front was now measured in meters, not maps. The enemy was above, around, and closing in.
Some truths were destroyed by design. The deliberate erasure of records attempt to obliterate the very memory of certain events became a grim reality.
The inner sanctum, where decisions narrowed to personal fate. Few would ever enter or leave unchanged.
Orders now concern survival, not victory. Loyalty was tested against reality.
The city's surface was being crushed methodically. The bunker could not escape the noise of defeat.
The psychological pressure of waiting without options. Anticipation can be more punishing than action.
Communications failed one by one. Isolation became complete.
The last strategic illusions collapsed here. Acknowledgement arrived too late. The bunker itself was under assault. Even the deepest protection had its limits.
We were engaged in a desperate fight not only against the enemy, but against the building around us. Collapse felt imminent with every tremor.
The perimeter defenses were gone. The end was no longer abstract.
The deldekate atekwane decision of way of abdesivor se panionashent. The shonermen desis instan demowanien being set in the motion.
Responsibility shifted quietly among those present. There was an absence of clear leadership beyond the bunker.
These documents represent the crafting of an official narrative, an attempt to control the truth until the very end.
The silence could be more frightening than the noise, underscoring the weight of anticipation.
Time marched on without mercy.
Men.
Every escape route, perceived as freedom, was nothing but an illusion.
Fragments. That's all the outside world received. No clarity. The confusion you see was intentional.
And so, the boundaries were drawn for the last time.
Everyone knew the significance of the hour. Words were no longer necessary.
The erasure was systeriatic, a Delbatar act of destruction attired at eliminating all traces of their crimes. The bunker was effectively sealed. Survival now depended entirely on events already decided.
The gravity of farewells made without witnesses. You see the finality of the moment.
The ritualistic, the prepanaktakat historian, Rabor, over Debret one details.
Access was restricted to a chosen few. He notes that secrecy reached its peak.
A decisive moment had passed. The consequences would unfold rapidly. The immediate response to what had occurred was swift. In the face of crisis, protocol, not emotion, took command.
The plans made earlier were now being executed. It is this preparation, not spontaneity, that dictates the outcome.
The attempt to conceal outcomes. Confusion was expected and encouraged. Careful crafting of a final message to the nation. This level of ambiguity was intentionally included. The underground refuge had survived its last test. The war above would soon end. Survival replaced ideology. The shift from command to submission. The bunker's purpose had ended. Only questions remained. What happened here was meant to vanish with the rubble. The truth would take years to surface, and even longer to be believed. While the bunker fell silent, the war did not pause above it. The victors now moved carefully, unsure what secrets still lay beneath their feet. They entered the underground world cautiously. Each corridor was a potential trap, and uncertainty ruled even in victory.
The bunker bore signs of hurried departure and deliberate destruction. He notes that evidence had been shaped before discovery.
Fragments of truth surfaced immediately, but never in full. Interpretation began the moment the doors were opened.
The inner chambers held the greatest interest. These rooms had been protected from history itself.
The destruction of these records was systematic, not panicked. It was a calculated act of erasure, driven by a deliberate intent rather than the chaos of retreat.
Confirmation mattered more than assumption. Certainty would require proof.
Personal items carried political weight. Identity itself became evidence.
The bunker was recorded piece by piece. Documentation was the first step toward control of the narrative. Identification was cautious and deliberate. Mistakes here could reshape history.
Fear had not disappeared with victory. Uncertainty still commanded respect. Every object, no matter how insignificant, became a potential truth. The weight placed on these small details was immeasurable.
Conclusions were debated fiercely. Politics influenced interpretation from the start.
But secrecy did not end with discovery. Control tightened, rather than loosened.
The first official accounts were cautious and incomplete. Ambiguity was preserved deliberately.
The witnesses became instruments of verification. Ultimately, fear shaped every answer they gave.
Testimony was often gathered under immense pressure. In those desperate times, the line between truth's survival was often blurred.
Consistency. That was the only thing that mattered. Because in the tapestry of their lies,
Agreement was partial at best. He notes that doubt lingered.
Images carried authority, yet could also mislead.
Physical evidence was removed from public sight. Access now depended on permission. Official communication confirms the movement of troops along the border.
The announcements were brief and calculated, notable mostly for what was left unsaid.
Public knowledge was shaped instantly. Curiosity only grew.
The world struggled to understand what had truly happened. Disbelief was widespread.
Confirmation was sought independently. Trust was scarce.
The absence of certainty fueled speculation. Mystery invited rumor.
For years, the story of the bunker was locked away. Silence became policy.
Political realities reshaped historical access, and the truth waited behind locks.
Time loosened some barriers. Gaps remained.
Lacking first-hand access, these reconstructions replaced it. Interpretation inevitably filled the missing spaces.
Consensus was elusive. History is rarely unanimous.
Each release answered some questions and raised others, emphasizing the endurance of uncertainty.
Public interest is resurfacing. Reports, books, images of the fascination. A fascination that never truly faded.
The physical space, once a site of immense historical significance, has, over time...
Cities, it seems, recover faster than truths. Layers, like layers of earth, conceal far more with just rubble.
Certified remarity in Alpert's kvoppeldet, and the limits of available evidence are understanding.
Contradiction defines this story. Clarity resists final definition.
The bunker symbolized collapse rather than conclusion. It was an ending, but offered no closure. Imagination fills the gaps left by secrecy, but be wary of certainty built on the absence.
What was once considered fact can now be seen anew. Each generation, armed with new methods, reinterprets.
Where certainty falters, myth oft takes root. The complexities are too often reduced to a simple narrative.
The end underground mirrored the end above. The collapse of the Third Reich, a depiction of the inescapable tide of history.
The destruction left space for reflection. A void where silence contemplation.
Some truths remain incomplete by nature. We must approach history with humility.
Secrecy shaped memory as much as action. We must emphasize responsibility in interpretation.
The city moved on, but history stayed buried beneath it. Memory endures. Absence can be deliberate. Forgetting can be planned. Our understanding remains provisional, an ongoing inquiry. History lives between them. Careful balance.
Secrecy delayed truth, but could not erase it. The evidence persisted.
Some things are more than stone and steel. Some things become symbols. They exist